Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about D&D. So first up for T&D today, obviously I have my Rooster mug. Again, I got this in college at Target, I think. So it has no real special meaning behind it other than it is one of my oldest mugs. Inside of it, I have, from Celestial Seasonings today, some honey, lemon, ginseng, green, and white tea. It is significantly lighter than, like, my normal green tea, which is delicious, I will say. That's just where I'm going to go with that one. It's very good. I like it a lot. It's light. It's honestly kind of like more airy and refreshing, which is a little bit weird for a hot drink sometimes. So it's very nice. Yeah, that's that. So what we are actually talking about today, it is Thursday, which means that it is Third Party Thursday, aka my honestly probably favorite day to talk about things. So let's go ahead and dive straight into it, shall we? Today we are talking about the Vault of Magic from Kobold Press. This is one of their more recent books, actually. When did it come out? I backed this on Kickstarter, and it's a 2021 book. You can find this on their website. Now that obviously the Kickstarter is over and everything like that, they are selling it on their website. But this is a phenomenal little book here. I say little, it's like 225 pages, full of magic items, which is fantastic. I am so excited about that. I love magic items. I love it when there is a book that comes out with a relatively robust magic item section, and the fact that this one is just magic items, yeah, I'm really psyched about that. So, first off, obviously, cover art is gorgeous. Kobold Press does some really phenomenal work. If you don't know who they are, definitely check them out. What are you doing if you've listened to this show at all? They are one of the biggest third-party producers of 5th edition stuff, and they do a really phenomenal job. And so, let's go ahead and unpack a little bit about what is in this book. I'm not going to sit here and read you magic item after magic item after magic item, because honestly, it's a 225-page book. 210 of those pages are magic items. We would be here for a very long time if you just wanted me to sit here and read them to you, so I'm not going to do that. Instead, we're going to talk a little bit about how the book is set up, like what you can find in the book, and then I'm going to highlight 5 different magic items that each sort of, like, I think emphasize a point, almost, with how this book is set up. And I try to pick one from each of the different major categories so that we can get a little bit of a good spread going there. First off, this book, because it is 210 pages of magic items, there's obviously not going to be art for every single item, but there's art for probably, I'd say somewhere between a third and half of the items, which is honestly very good. I'm overall pretty happy with that. Let's see, on this random page that I flipped to, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of art for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of the items. So that's a pretty normal ratio. And that is just kind of what you can expect to see in terms of the artwork in here. Now, the book itself is split up into 5, technically like 6 different sections, but 5 major sections. Those sections are armor and weapons, potions and scrolls, rings, rods, staves, and wands, wondrous items. Oh, I'm an idiot. I'm gonna get there, and I'm not gonna have the right number told to you guys. And fabled magic items. Then there's the appendix for item tables. So I'm wrong. There's actually 1, 2. Apparently I can't count. 3, 4. No, I'm right. There's 5. God, I am having a weird day today so far, I guess. I thought that I had screwed that up. There are 5 plus the appendix. Okay, great. Glad we got that out of the way. The items in this book range from common to legendary to fabled, which is that last section that we'll talk about when we get to it. And they have, honestly, a pretty solid spread of these magic items. I can't give you guys like an exact count because I didn't go through and count every single one of these items. However, as you're flipping through, you will notice that there's like an uncommon item right next to a legendary item, right next to a rare item, and so on as you go through. So they do a good job of spreading it out. I do wish that they had like an appendix in here where it broke it down by rarity, but that was the word I was looking for. That's what that hand motion was. If you're watching this, I wish they had have a table. I wish that they had an appendix in here that broke it down by rarity, or a table that broke it down by rarity, but they don't. And that is what it is. Not a huge deal. They do break it down in the appendix by item tables and CR treasure trove kind of things. And so you can get there pretty easily. It just is not like a comprehensive list of like, these are all of the things that are common. These are all the things that are uncommon. Not really the point though. So first up, as I mentioned, we are going to be trying to find we're picking, not going to try and find. I have picked one item from each of these sections that we're going to talk about very briefly that I think sort of emphasize the different things that this book kind of helps offer. First up, in the armor and weapons section, we are going to be looking at a set of armor that is a common set of armor, to just emphasize the point that they do in fact have common magic items throughout this book. It is called the Agile Armor. It is any medium or heavy armor. This magically enhanced armor is less bulky than its non-magical version. While wearing the suit of medium agile armor, the maximum dexterity modifier you can add to your armor class is 3 instead of 2. While wearing a suit of heavy agile armor, the maximum dexterity modifier you can add to determine your armor class is 1 instead of 0. So you have this common item that doesn't require attunement is actually potentially going to be a +1 suit of armor for you, depending on what your dexterity modifier is. Now, a lot of times characters that are wearing this heavier armor might not have as good of a dexterity score because they will be, you know, more of the beefy frontline strength-based fighters who are going to be wearing this heavy plate anyway. But if you have that extra +1, you can get yourself just a little extra bump. Just a little bump. And while that does seem like a very, very powerful enchantment for a common magic item, when, you know, other common magic items are like the Wand of Smiles or something like that, I love the Wand of Smiles. Don't come for me on that one. It helps balance it out because it requires you to be a dexterous character, in addition to the fact that armor is expensive early on, and especially magic armor. And magic armor with a good enchantment like this that could be bordering on uncommon is going to be something that the characters are going to have to buy. But it is also not super unreasonable to think that, like, this could be something you could find pretty easily. Like, this seems like something that would be relatively, not easy to make necessarily, but more readily available than, like, a physical, like, +1 set of armor. So I understand why they gave it the common ranking there. Next up, we are going to jump forward to page 52 with our potions and scrolls. This is stretching all the way out to the legendary. So I picked these first two to sort of show like the bookends that you can hit here. This is also one of the shorter ones in here, but I think that this is a really cool thing. There's not a good way to balance something like this, so it is legendary for a reason. The Extract of Dual-Mindedness is a legendary potion. This potion can only be distilled from a hormone found in the hypothalamus of a two-headed giant of genius intellect. So already, the hyperspecificity is there, which means that there would be one of these in your game probably, and that is it, ever. For 1 minute after drinking this potion, you can concentrate on 2 spells at the same time. You have advantage on Constitution saving throws made to maintain concentration on a spell when you take damage. Now, you might be thinking, hold up, double concentration? That's ridiculous. That's so crazy. That is crazy. It's a legendary item for a reason. Kobold Press, traditionally, as kind of like a general thing, takes whatever the power scaling that normal 5e official material has and turns it up just a little bit. Most of the monsters that you'll find in a monster manual are going to be slightly weaker than their equivalent challenge rating monster in a Kobold Press book, and the Kobold Press ones actually end up usually being a little bit more on target for that actual challenge rating. You can see with these two examples in particular, that same kind of thing happening here. They are amping up just ever so slightly. Now, the fact that this is what it is, essentially, where it is almost impossible to find, would take massive skill to create. And then there is the set time of 1 minute, and then that's it. Makes me think that it is not so out of the realm of possibility for actually putting in your game. Though, if you are a Dungeon Master and you have a player who uses this and then has, I don't know, like a 9th level and an 8th level concentration spell up for a full minute, you better have a good way to sort of circumvent that. But that kind of goes with all legendary items, because legendary items are going to be things that just kind of like absolutely kick any monster you can have in the face. And that's just sort of the way that it goes. But this one I really like, because again, I wish that there were ways for players to be able to split concentration at some sort of penalty. But this one doesn't have a penalty because it's a legendary item, blah, blah, blah. Next up, we are jumping forward to the rings, rods, staves, and wands section over here on page 72. We are going to talk about the Clockwork Rogue Ring. This, in my mind, the cat just sprinted in and is running a lot right now. He's got, he's zooming around. Anyway, the Clockwork Rogue Ring, I don't know if you heard that or not, but that was him sprinting out of the room. The Clockwork Rogue Ring is an item that I picked out of this book because it is what I believe to be a good example of an item that can help the party fill a gap that isn't necessarily able to be filled by just another party member if you don't have this specific person. Obviously, if you have a rogue, this is kind of not useless, but definitely not as useful. But if you don't have a party with a rogue in it, then this is kind of going to be something that will be worth more than the uncommon rarity that it has to that party. So, the Clockwork Rogue Ring. Made by Kobold Clockwork mages, this brass clockwork ring is formed to look like a coiled dragon. When you speak or whisper the draconic command word etched on the inside of the ring, the brass dragon uncoils and attempts to pick any lock within 10 feet of you. The dragon picks the lock using your proficiency bonus, but with advantage. It is treated as having thieves' tools when attempting to pick locks. It uses your stealth bonus for purposes of not being spotted, but with advantage due to its extremely small size. Whether successful or not, once you have used the ring to attempt to pick a lock, it can't be used again until the next sunset. So, if you've got a party without a rogue and they keep getting stuck by locked doors and, maybe they don't want to kick it down every time, this is a great little option for them. And you should think about giving it to them. Or I guess not necessarily just rogue, but anybody that doesn't have a, thieves' tools proficient person in their party. Next up, we're jumping forward to page 148 to talk about the Wondrous Items in here. This one I picked specifically because it builds on a set of items, I guess technically, that already exist in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. This is the set of Ioun Stones that are available in this book. Obviously, Ioun Stones are a set of magical items that are available in the DMG. I believe it's the DMG. It might be Xanathar's Guide. Pretty sure it's the DMG, not the point. But this adds more options for you to pick from the Ioun Stone. So this is sort of emphasizing the fact that it does, in fact, build on some of the existing items that you can find in that book. And they do a good job of kind of keeping the power scaling in the same area. I'm not going to go through every single one of these. I'll read out their names, and then I'll talk about a couple of them probably, but that's about it. So, obviously, Ioun Stones, wondrous item that have a variety of rarities. The options in here are the rare Devil's Sight, very rare Emerald Shard, very rare Granite, common Illumination, uncommon Limestone, uncommon Sandstone, and rare Slate. So let's just talk about, let's say, Devil's Sight and Granite. Why not? Devil's Sight, while this dull black spindle orbits your head, you can see normally in both magical and non-magical darkness to a distance of 60 feet. That's pretty straightforward, and it makes sense as to why it is the rarity that it is. Then Granite, the very rare one. While this granite rhomboid orbits your head, you have resistance to non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. Pretty straightforward. these are great options to build out your Ioun stones if you have a party that is particularly interested in them. Jumping forward now to our final item that we're going to talk about in the Fabled Magic Items section. I'm pretty confident that I talked about legacy items, or legacy weapons, I guess, technically, in the first season. This is that concept, but a little bit more tied to character progression in terms of numbers as opposed to character progression in terms of stories. I am also not going to... no, we'll see how far we get with... Yeah, we'll probably read this whole one, just because it's a lot of words, but I'll explain how this works. Each one of these is an item of some sort that has these special properties that make it seem rarer than it actually is, make it seem like more powerful than it appears at first. These have a common effect, essentially, and then beginning at 5th level, for I believe every one of these, but it could be whatever level you want it to be, they begin to require attunement to access the additional properties of the items. There is a property increase at 5th, 9th, 13th, and 17th levels, pretty well across the board. So they progress with the character, adding more stuff that the characters can do. So we are going to be talking about the Bracers of Ganis Brielle. This is a wondrous item, obviously. They're bracers. They're a set of bracers that specifically focus kind of on archery. So the common effect of them is, while wearing these bracers, you have proficiency with the longbow and shortbow. Very straightforward. As the level increases past 5th level, it requires attunement to access the following features. 5th level, when you make your first attack roll on your turn, you have advantage on the attack roll if you make the attack with a longbow or shortbow. If you roll a 20 for the attack roll, this property ceases to function until you roll a 1 for an attack roll or until you finish a short rest. So that gives you advantage on your first attack every turn until you crit, and then you lose that advantage until you get a critical failure. 9th level, you gain a +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls with ranged weapons made with longbows and shortbows. In addition, your ranged attacks ignore half cover and 3/4 cover, and you don't have a disadvantage when attacking at long range. So you pick up kind of like half of the sharpshooter feat there, in addition to it becoming a +1 set of bracers that give you damage on your archery specifically. At 13th level, you now gain a +2 bonus to attack and damage rolls on ranged attacks made with shortbows and longbows instead of +1. In addition, you can use an action to touch a non-magical arrow, turning it into an arrow of giant slaying. The arrow of giant slaying immediately becomes a non-magical arrow if used by anyone other than you. You can't create a new arrow of giant slaying until the next dawn, and you can only have one such arrow of giant slaying at a time. So, it becomes a +2 set of bracers, and you get the ability to essentially... It's not quite like an arcane shot, but it kind of is in the same sense, or in the sense that like you get to add a little bit of magic to it, if that makes sense. And finally, at 17th level, you now gain a +3 bonus to attack and damage rolls on ranged attacks made with longbows and shortbows instead of +2. In addition, when you roll a 20 on a ranged attack roll with a longbow or shortbow, you roll the damage dice 3 times instead of twice. Now you might be thinking, triple damage on a crit? That's crazy. This is an artifact, essentially. Like, it is supposed to do things that are absolutely insane, pretty much impossible. And so that is the reason that you would have that triple damage in addition to it becoming the +3. So those are the items that I wanted to actually show you guys and talk about in this book here, The Vault of Magic Items from Kobold Press. Again, you can find this book on their website if you're interested in it. It is a very, very good book. If you like magic items, this is something you should definitely pick up. Highly recommend. That is everything to talk about in regard to the book. Moving on now to what shows we have today. It is Thursday, obviously, which means that we have Critical Role. We also have Authors and Dragons, NADPOD, and LGBT... Oh my god, I do this every single time. LGBT D&D. For some reason, my brain cannot get all of those letters in a row there, despite the fact that I say those letters often enough together. So check out those shows. Definitely, they are all fantastic. Definitely check out any of the shows that I've talked about so far as well, because support small D&D shows, consume D&D content. It's a good time. But that is everything that I have to talk to you guys about today. Thank you so much for making me part of your morning routine. I really do appreciate it, and thank you so much in particular to my patrons. You guys are the ones that make this show possible. if you're interested in becoming a patron, please check out the link in the description. Yeah, hopefully you guys decide to stick around for that. But as I mentioned, I think that is everything I have to talk to you guys about today. So, with all that said, don't forget, drink tea, play D&D, and keep on rolling.